Okay, I hope it works. So,あ、現れたね。僕が。ザーザー言うの。マイクだラスラスラス。ちょっと試し。違うマイク。 切れるってどういうこと？なんかそろそろ復活するはず。どうかしら。OK。マイク変えた。OK。はい。Yes, hello. Sorry for the delay. It seems that my microphone was not working with this setup properly, but yes, today I'm trying to do something different. As you know, I still owe you the sketch for going over the $500 thing, and this is the line art for this sketch already done. And before painting it with watercolors, I will try to do some test colors here in Photoshop. If my computer does not explode. なんか変。OK。隠した。Okay, so we have still some time till 10. When more of you are here, I will start answering questions and talking about stuff. I hope that stuff will not explode on the way. I have a lot of questions here from you ready, so okay, I will get with the coloring here. どう見える？あの画像。Okay, so I'm putting the lines here on multiply and setting some layers below so I can paint stuff. Okay. I just want to do some basic colors here to test the colors of the picture before I paint it with watercolors. And probably I will do the front of the picture kind of dark and the back of the picture kind of light, really light colors. And I have some reference on how the bath that I picture here looks like. Because I went to the Edo Tokyo Tatemono-en, which is in Tokyo, and it has a lot of old buildings, and amongst those buildings is a old Japanese bath. So I just want to picture it in this illustration. And I have some pictures of how the bath looks like, so I can see them as reference. I really recommend going there because it's one of my favorite places in whole Japan, I think. Anyone who comes to Japan should at least once go there and check it out. So I will be trying to keep the colors that are in the back kind of not saturated, and saturated but not really strong. So it seems that it's kind of far-ish. And this is of course just a color test, so I'm not going like all out on this. I just want to finish the color test while we are talking here. And of course this hello, and of course this picture will be available for you on Patreon, and I will scan it in after I painted it watercolors. After I paint it in watercolors, I will scan it in full resolution like 600 dpi and post the full resolution JPEG file to Patreon if I manage to finish this without, I don't know, crashing or burning this computer. Okay, so I see that you are gathering slowly, so na zdrowie. So I will start telling you some stuff. As you know, I have been doing the book, the Tokyo Storyfront's book recently, all the time almost, and the book has been taking almost 100% of my time here. I have been doing some additional location hunting for the book because I already have. Yes, I will also upload the lines too. I did it once for one of the other illustrations, but yes, I will upload both versions. As you know, I scan often the pencil because those lines here are pencil. So I scan the pencil lines before I paint with watercolors to have them, and so I can overlay them later in Photoshop on top of the watercolor painting. So, okay, this is kind of bluish. So yeah, I have the lines also, and I will upload them also. I also have the movie of me drawing it and doing like a sketch in Procreate, and I'm still kind of thinking what to do with this. Maybe I will put it on YouTube, maybe I will put it only on Patreon, I don't know. But the whole file, the 600 dpi file will be only on Patreon, so you'll be able to download it and print it and do stuff with it if you want and see it in full detail. So yes, I went to Tokyo to see some shops again for the book, and we went up until I think 47. So there's only like 3 shops that I'm missing for the whole book, and I already painted 41, so I already missing 9 shops, yes, for the book, which is kind of really exciting to be below like 20 or something. Hello, Mr. Diego Martinez Barcelo, if I can pronounce it. Happy to have you here. So yes, I'm happy because I only have to do 9 of the shops, and because I gave interview to Asahi Shimbun, which is one of the most biggest newspapers in Japan, and the article about the book was published in the Tokyo edition of the newspaper. We actually went to number 1 in Amazon art book category, and in art category we went, I think, in the whole art design and all those kind of visual book category we went to, I think, 3, and on the whole Amazon 56, which is really crazy because it counts all the magazines, all the monthly publications and everything, and counting everything we went to like 56. So that's kind of crazy and awesome. Even the book is not published yet, so I think that maybe it will be kind of popular when it is finally finished, when I finally finish it. Okay, so here I'm painting the Fujisan, so Mount Fuji, and this is just a sketch for me to know what colors go where when I paint with watercolors. So I'm doing it kind of rough, but this is kind of difficult because there will be like steam and all kinds of stuff, so I have to do this kind of color rough to not to break this picture once I start on it with watercolors. How big is this file? It's not so big, okay. So the book is going along, and you probably know, but on Amazon, if you pre-order the book, you have like 3 stickers, and the stickers are 3 of the old shops, so the shops from the old series. The first 10 shops I painted, sorry. And also there from other news, I will be doing an animated kind of commercial thing from next year, and this is still kind of a secret, so I cannot tell you a lot about it, but this will be mainly for the internet, but also like television and all kinds of displayed in the city on huge monitors and everything. And this is fully animated with an animation studio that is making stuff here in Japan, and maybe you heard about it, but I cannot tell you what studio it is still. I really wish I could, but the only thing is that I accepted this commission because I usually don't accept commissions like that, especially big ones that take my time. Is that I can direct the animation, so I will be doing the story and the storyboard and the script and everything for the animation, and also the backgrounds will be done with watercolors, and not only by me, but I also have one more person to help me, and maybe I will take one more person, we have to see, but this is kind of an exciting thing because I have never done an animation, and I have seen but not seen recently animations done with backgrounds with watercolors, so this is kind of exciting. Maybe I can do something new to kind of bring some new wave to the Japanese animation industry, which is kind of like really stiff right now. So yeah. By the way, I'm talking here, so while I'm talking, you can already ask questions for this session. I have some questions saved here from you that you sent me, but yeah, I'm seeing the chat all the time. So yes, this animation will be on the internet probably around May next year when it's finished. So you will be able to see it and without paying anything. And I'm actually currently also asking those guys that commissioned me to do it if I can make making of videos of the whole process of me painting backgrounds and doing the animations. So maybe I will be able to do like how to do Japanese animation with watercolors kind of videos on YouTube. So yeah, that would be awesome, but I don't know still if I will be able to do that. Maybe I would really like to. I would really like to do something like that. That would be awesome. As you know, I have recently bought a nice camera, so maybe I would be able to do like let's go to the animation studio and film the guys who painted the animation or something like that. That would be really awesome, but it's kind of it's kind of difficult in Japan because of course you have the commission, you have the company that commissioned the animation, you have the company that is like in between, you have the animation studio that is a completely different entity and they have their own projects and their own business. And this is kind of crazy because you have to connect all of them, and I'm a director that is an outsider from all of those four. So my kind of I want to do this or I want to do that thing is kind of not so important for them. So I will probably have some tough time to do all the things that I want to do with this animation, but I will try. I don't want to do a traditional like the usual Japanese animation that you can see on the TV right now. So yeah, I will be trying to do something interesting, and also Kana will be helping with this project also. So I hope we can do something interesting. Okay, so I will be moving to the questions. I have some questions. Okay, so the first question is from, I think, Emmy, is how you read it. And the point of this question is that Emmy is already 28 years old and she studied a lot of economy and also graduated from a university, but she doesn't like to do it. And she asked me if it's okay for her if she actually goes to a university to study drawing and painting to be an illustrator, but she doesn't have any classes in painting and drawing, like to level up her skills that are the basis of illustration work. And the question is that how do you learn in schools? Do you in Japan schools have learned courses about drawing? Can you give some suggestions about drawing? And for now I use only reference photos to draw and cannot draw from my imagination, so it makes me nervous. Okay, so I actually talked with Kana about this for a little bit because this is kind of the difficult topic because I learned drawing by myself. I didn't go to a school that teaches you drawing exactly. Like, okay, let's do classes and poses, or let's do classes how to draw trees or paint trees. I learned everything by myself. So this is kind of how I did it. And from my experience, I have to say that you have to do a lot of things by yourself, even at an university that is kind of okay, computer graphics or design or illustration. They will give you some things to do, but from my experience, most of the things that you have to do is you have to do by yourself. So there are a few ways that you can do it. There are a few ways that you can learn by yourself. For example, you can set yourself some goals. For example, I have been doing like an online comic that was kind of forcing me to draw every week a new episode for this online comic that I had to upload, even though I had some classes and tests and stuff like that. And that kept me painting and drawing every day for, I don't know, a year or something. And we are talking about a thing that was I think 10 years ago or something, so you cannot see this comic in internet anymore. But I discovered that after I finished doing this comic, I was really better at drawing characters and drawing like scenes and the perspective and all kinds of like that. So setting yourself a goal, a target that you have to hit every day or every week is really important. And even if at school they don't give you like work to do like this, setting yourself a goal is really important, and it's a good method for learning, I think. The second thing is that there were a lot of people doing the same thing that you want to do already before you. So you can learn from them and steal knowledge from them really easily right now, because you have internet. You can watch people paint, you can watch people draw, you can see their pictures, analyze them, you have making offs, you have all those kind of materials, and you can search for pictures from your favorite artists, and you can actually learn a lot from stuff like this. Most of the skills I learned is from analyzing pictures, analyzing pictures from other people, and thinking about what I like about them, why I think this is a good piece of art and why I think this is not such a good piece of art. If I would do it, how I would do it differently, and etc, etc. So this is kind of a method so that you can use to learn by yourself. And actually I think that having classes at the university is helpful, because you can have classes like with models that will pose for you, or teachers that will teach you perspective and show you exactly what you are doing wrong. So that's kind of helpful, but it doesn't necessarily that the fact that you don't have classes in drawing, it doesn't necessarily mean that at your school there are no people that can help you with your goal. You can go to good illustrators and good designers that teach at your school, or maybe some better not better student, but students that have this skill already, and ask them to study together and exchange knowledge. That's really necessary if you are studying at a university. For me, I think one of the biggest mistakes was to do everything by myself and not asking for help and advice to people that already are in the business for some time and they are like teaching in the university. Even though you don't have classes in drawing, it doesn't mean that there is no one at your school that will not help you if you ask them for advice. So those are like 3 ways that you can level up, even if you have no classes actually in drawing. And you can also do stuff like Inktober, or like a lot of art challenges in the internet right now. So even though you don't know what to do with your time, and like I don't know what to draw, there are a lot of art challenges that kind of are good for leveling your skills also. So yes, 4 ways to level up. Actually, the thing that you have to remember is to like just draw a lot always. That's really important. And with every painting and every drawing, try to be better, and you will do good, because that's the only way that you can learn actually, I think. Okay, so next question. Next question is from Anna Maria, if I read it correctly. How do you see yourself in 6 in 3 and 6 years? Okay, this is kind of difficult, because when I came to Japan, I wanted to do comic. I wanted to do manga, but now I'm doing like I spent like 4 years doing animation backgrounds, and then I went like freelance, and now I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's really hard to imagine myself, because I tried to imagine myself like when I came to Japan like 8 years ago, and everything I imagined failed, but failed in a good way. I mean, I'm not doing like weekly manga in Shonen Jump, but I did some amazing background work for Makoto Shinkai, so probably it went even better than I expected. But I would like to just continue doing my own work, even if it's commissions. I would like to do work that is kind of mine, and work that I would like to see created, and I think has kind of a value for everyone that sees it. For me, the problem in Japan right now, in like this in the Japanese visual industry, is that everything is kind of targeted for the audience. So you have works of animation or comic or commercials in the TV that are targeted specially for what people would like to see. So most of the things that are made are target made. Okay, so people like Gundam, so we will make more Gundam for them, and people like cute girls anime, so we will do even cuter girls anime, and this is the problem. So I would like to do art that is kind of that shows people stuff that they didn't think they didn't thought they wanted, if it makes sense. So something that enriches people and does not only give them what they want, but something more. So yes, I would like to do art like this for the next 3-6 years or even longer. But for like targets, I would like to make and publish a comic. I'm right now doing the Yuragi comic, which is on hold because of the book. But I would like to do a proper comic, maybe color, maybe black and white, that would be published by a Japanese publishing company. If I could do it, I would be really happy. Okay, so the inside is like this. I will try to do the outside, the room in the front, and it's kind of, it has to be kind of darker. There is a window here, so I guess like shadows like this. Yes, and there is a windows also like here, so this part will be in shadow, and I guess the ceiling will be in shadow like this. This part here, and okay, so his back and this leg will be like in shadow, and his shadow will be like down here on the floor. Let's make it like here, and also this rack here will have like shadow, and shadows here and here. Okay, so more or less like this. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So this is kind of wood, a wood kind of wood, dark wood. So let's see how it looks. I have some photos here. Okay, like this, huh? Okay, like this. Okay. Okay, so next question. Why do you chose a dog for your portrait? And I get this question a lot. I actually got this question from the person that was interviewing me for the newspaper recently, and this is kind of difficult because I don't know. I was doing the Cold in Yokohama series, and I painted the dog, and I really liked him as a character, so I didn't want to just let him go after one series only. So I decided to use him for more of my drawings and paintings, like a stand-in for me, because I don't want to paint or draw me when I do like concept art for my Mushishi box or something like that. I don't want to paint myself or draw myself. So this is a nice kind of a compromise. But I think I will be changing him a little bit because, as you know, I don't smoke and I don't have glasses. So I will probably make a non-smoking, no glasses version soon for the Tokyo Storyfronts book that I have, that I'll be doing, because there will be some sketches of him doing location hunting also, and I want to do some pictures of the of my workspace for the book also. So yeah, I want to do a more realistic version of the dog, and he just stuck with me. I don't know, I just like this character as my kind of stand-in. So yes. Next question: in which countries do you want to travel if you have the chance and would like to draw them? I would like to go to some countries that are kind of old European kind of thing. So France, of course, like this kind of thing, like England, France, Holland, like Austria, maybe Germany, I don't know, but like not Czechoslovakia, like Czech and Slovenia, I think. I still remember the old pattern, but yes, kind of stuff like this. I would like to see some places that look like the setting from Kiki's Delivery Service, because I really like this kind of vibe. I went to Scotland for like 2 months and a half, I think, and it was awesome. So I would like to see some more like old European things again. So yeah, and probably next year we are going to Prague. I don't know how do you say it in English. Praga, for a week. I really suck at countries and the cities names and stuff like this. That was one of the subjects in school I had most problems with, because I couldn't remember anything. So yeah. Yes, in Switzerland also. Actually, one of my favorite television programs is like this kind of program when you just have the train that goes around Switzerland, and just you have the sights from the train. And that was my favorite television program ever made. I think it was like National Geographic or Discovery Channel or something, and you just had like the views of Switzerland from train, and that was awesome. I really like it. Yes, we are going to Praha for, or Praga, as we call it in Polish, or Prague, I think. Next year for like a week. So I want to do some sketching there also, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, next question. And this question is from Didier Clerc. Again, I cannot read things. When doing watercolor, is the quality of the water important? Here in Switzerland, we have a lot of sediment in the water, and I was thinking if it makes any difference for the pigments. I don't think it makes difference. I actually haven't felt any difference when I was moving around in Japan, or when I was moving from Poland to Japan. So probably it has no difference, but you can always use like bottled water if it kind of is your thing, or filter your water. I don't think it has so much influence, that would be actually kind of interesting thing to check, like a YouTube video checking the all kinds of waters, if it has any influence on painting with waters. But I don't think so, that it has any influence on watercolors. I mean, the watercolor pigment is already like a powder and some glue that you have in watercolors, so I don't think that any little bit more like sediment in water makes any significant difference. But you know, that would be a nice experiment to check and see if you use like bottled water or filtered water, if it makes any difference. That would be actually kind of interesting. Okay, next question. Do you have any hints to help me understand the color of what I'm seeing in nature? Sometimes I want to paint landscapes, but I have difficulties to understand well are all the small nuances of color. Okay. This is kind of difficult, because there is no one kind of method of representation what you see. It's like if you look at the history of art, which I'm not really so good at, but there are a lot of methods that you can use to represent what you see. You can use black and white, you can use ink, you can use watercolors, you can use oils, you can use all kinds of media that give you different results. And of course you can use different style, like expressionism, or like try to be as realistic as possible, or do like just sketchy kind of thing, or be like all over the place if you want to. So this is kind of up to you actually, how you represent the colors that you see in nature. If you want to be as close to nature as you can be, there is a lot of factors you have to keep in mind while painting, especially about shadows, and especially about the air distance perspective, because colors change if they are in shadow, and colors also change if they are like further away. So those are the two most important things that you have to keep in mind. And actually there's a lot of like proper science to color representation. I would recommend like seeing some videos on like color science and those kind of stuff. But to be honest, is like I have been seeing a lot of people doing like let's paint stuff from Google Earth, and let's paint stuff from like internet photos that they found somewhere, and they try to represent it with the colors that they pick up from the photo. And again, like trying to paint exactly what you see with your naked eye is one of the ways that you can go with painting, but it's not necessary to be like 100% accurate in what you are doing with this. So I would actually recommend you to go wild with colors and decide a scheme that you think is kind of proper for this scene, and then stick with it. So as you know, I have been working for like a background artist, as a background artist, and what we did is a lot of time we decide stuff before we start painting. Like, okay, so the shadows will be like cool blue, and the highlights, all the places where the sun hits the objects, will be like kind of warm-ish colors, and when you have this kind of base, you can start painting with this in mind, and you kind of ignore how the colors look in nature. Okay, this is red, but it's red, but you don't have to use the same red. You can use the red that makes your picture look better, actually. So this is one of the ways to do that also. And we actually did it a lot of times. One thing that I would not recommend is picking colors from like photos. You can look at photos and or look at nature and try to paint something that looks similar, but picking colors from photos is not really good. Yeah, I mean, you could also do like only use 3 paints, only use 3 colors, like limit your palette and try to do as much as you can with those 3 colors. And this is a great kind of exercise with watercolors, and you can also do it with like oils or gouache or whatever. And then when you have such a limited palette, it's easier to kind of wrangle the colors so they do what you want them to do. If you have a lot of colors like here in Photoshop, that is kind of difficult because you can do almost anything with those colors, and most of the times it turns like that. So what I like to do is like pick a picture that you like. Okay, this picture has nice colors, and then pick a theme. So I want to paint this, for example, I don't know, like city scene with colors from that picture. And this is a nice exercise for using someone's picture as a palette in Photoshop. You forget about the color picker, you forget about the swatches, and then you use only the picture that you like as a color palette. And while using this picture as a color palette, you also kind of try to analyze, okay, so this person used these colors for shadows, so I will use also this color for shadows. And this is kind of an interesting exercise and method for learning. And once you paint one picture with this kind of palette, then you remember it. And if you have another picture that is kind of, okay, this is kind of similar, I can use this palette here also and it will look okay. And this is one skill more that you have remembered and you can use it all the time. And this is actually how doing backgrounds for animation looks like, because all the people have to paint in similar style. So once you do like 3-4 pictures in this kind of palette, you kind of know what you have to do to match everyone around you so you don't stand out so much. And this is one of the methods that you can learn. And it is awesome because you can steal people's skills, like in, I don't know, Pokemon or something. You just catch them and forever torture them in a small white and red ball of your mind. And when you need them, you just go like, okay, Makoto Shinkai, and the Pokemon goes out and you can paint in this style because you have remembered how it looks like. Okay, so I think this roof kind of thing is a little bit too light, so I will lock this layer. Jesus, I have not painted in Photoshop for so long. Most of the sketches I did recently was like, how do you call it, on iPad. I'm so rusty here. And this is actually how I learned most of the things that I know about painting. Is like trying to be another people. It's like you try to be, I don't know, your favorite online artist that you found last week, and you try to be like, I don't know, Hayao Miyazaki, and then you try to be Makoto Shinkai, and the next day you try to be yourself because you already have enough skills to try something original, and you more or less know the rules that govern the work that you want to do. Of course, the most perfect thing would be to have actually the person that did the picture to tell you, okay, you did this, but I would do this and it would look better, but you don't have this and I don't have this, so this is the only thing that we can do. Hello, Atelier Urso. It means like bear, I think. Ateliero. It's in Italian, probably. Hi, welcome. If you have any other questions, please write in the chat and I will answer them while I'm here sketching. And okay, I kind of went through most of the questions I had saved here in my file, so if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so going back to the picture I'm doing here, it's from the Edo Tokyo Tatemono-en, which is one of the best places to go in Japan to see old Japanese buildings in Esperanto. Wow, Esperanto, which is awesome, I think. And most of the places that you can go and see like old Japanese buildings has like old Japanese buildings, like really old buildings, like, you know, wooden really old buildings. But the Edo Tokyo Open Air Architectural Museum, it's called, this place, has some buildings from various times. So you can see like a shopping street that is like from just after the war, the second war. How do you call it? Worldwide war. Just after the second one, yes. And you can see some older buildings, and you can see like this huge bath, Japanese bath that is there also, which is awesome. And so I would really recommend going there to have a nice time if you are ever in Tokyo or close to Tokyo. There is also one open air architectural museum around how do we call it? Not in Yokohama. Yokohama to Tokyoの間何があるっけ? Kawasaki. Okay, so around Kawasaki, there's also one more, but that one has mostly like wooden buildings and a little bit older. So if you are kind of in something like that, that's also a nice place. But I like mostly like the buildings that were made in kind of Showa period, so around after the Second War, a little bit earlier also, but yeah. So there is the huge Sento, so public bath there, and you can actually go inside. It's not in use anymore, so there's no water, but you can go inside and see how it looks, and it has the Fuji mountain painted there on the wall like here, and it's awesome. I really like it, and it's not so expensive also, but I think it's like 500 yen per visitor, and you can spend all day there. There's also like a restaurant and stuff like that. So yes, Tokyo Station is also nice. I actually painted Tokyo Station for the Kimi no Nawa, so Your Name animation, as a background. It was pain to paint because it has so many windows, but it's a nice piece of architecture. And actually, before the Tokyo Station building, there was one more building like this made in near Akihabara. There was a building really similar to Tokyo Station, and it was actually a test building before doing the building in for the Tokyo Station. And great shame is that the building is not there anymore. You can see it on old photos, and it was called Mansei Bashi. So if you search for Mansei Bashi in internet, on the internet, you can get some photos of the old building. And it was actually really pretty with a small like plaza in front of it, and I liked it. Now there is like, you can see only some remnants of the train station there that is still kind of in use. There's a like a shop inside, but it was, yes, like the red brick kind of architecture that is nice. I like it. And actually now the Tokyo Station is remodeled, and it's still remodeling kind of, so you can see some parts of the old interiors when you go in from some of the sides, so it's really interesting. Yeah, the Mansei Bashi is now like a design shop kind of. You can go there and buy stuff like furniture and things. And actually this is one of my favorite sketching places in Tokyo, because outside of the shop you can go on like a wooden terrace, and there are benches there, and you can see the bridges that are near Ochanomizu, and from on the other side you can see Akihabara with all the like crazy buildings. So this is a nice place for sketching. I really like it. But that was only the station, like there are tracks over it, so this part was like how do you call it, it was not destroyed, because they needed the trains and the bridge, so this kind of stayed. But there was another building, a whole another building, like a small version of Tokyo Station there, with like a small plaza and everything, and you can see it on like old photos. It's really nice. Actually did a sketch in Mansei Bashi, two sketches actually, in my Moleskine sketchbook from there, and it's a nice place for sketching in Tokyo. I really like it. Yes, any more questions? I think there are like 10 people watching live right now, so if you have any questions about anything, just ask me. Okay, so, and this is a mirror here, so I will have to kind of mirror everything. Okay. And because this is a mirror, I will make it more kind of, how do you call it? Yes, save file. Save as. Okay. Arigato. A small tip from Kana to save the file. Save it sometimes, so you don't lose it. I have been doing most of my sketching things on iPad recently, so I kind of got used to that, even when like Procreate is really stable. But if something happens, that the file is there and you don't have to save on iPad when you are painting, so I kind of am not used to painting in Photoshop recently, so yeah. And actually I did a small like a talk in Tokyo with something that is called Human Academy, when students from all kinds of schools, art schools in Japan, came to Tokyo to study like animation and manga from all kinds of people. So I went there to do a talk about my Tokyo storefronts and painting with watercolors and stuff like that. And I was live painting on the screen with actually Procreate and iPad, and it went really well. Actually, I was really surprised how well it handled, because I was using the HDMI kind of plug for the iPad for the first time, but you can actually paint while using this and connect it and have it connected to a screen, which is kind of interesting. Okay, do you have any suggestions where to start with digital painting, especially if you aren't still so good in traditional drawing? There are some advice and I can give you about this, because when I started drawing, I was not really good. I'm still not really good, but I think I can give you some advice, because when I started painting, I did all things digitally, and the thing I think I did wrong first is use everything that the digital software has to offer. So I was doing a lot of like setting layers to special effects and using multiply and using all this kind of stuff before I even properly learned to paint and to use color and to do shadows and stuff like that. So for beginning, when you are painting with digital, I would actually recommend to do stuff as you would do while painting by hand. So try to kind of keep things simple. Of course, you can use layers and you can use some cool brushes and you can undo and you can copy paste and you can do kind of all kinds of stuff that you can not do while painting by hand. But I would actually recommend not to use all kinds of crazy special effects, all kinds of like options that software has to offer, but kind of concentrate on using just, you know, couple of brushes that you like and couple of layers, not too much, not too little, so you can feel comfortable with painting digitally, because this is one of the big advantages, and it would be shame not to use them. But I would recommend to start slowly using software that you can just go and get for free, or you can buy for little money actually, which is like you can download stuff like GIMP or GIMP, I don't know how to pronounce it, or the Clip Studio, which is like, I don't know, $50 or something like that, for the full software that is really powerful. And or you can get an iPad Pro like I did, and I think that is really good for digital painting, because it kind of disconnects you from your computer and you can sit wherever you want. You can sit on your couch, and you can just take the Apple Pencil in your hand, and the software is like, I think $6 or something like that, and you can paint whatever you want and however you want, and it's really fast and nothing bothers you. And it also has layers and cool brushes and all kinds of nice stuff. So, and there are a lot of choices, but I would actually recommend to start simple and do stuff without too many like special effects and stuff like that, because it kind of kills your perception of things, because you always think like, okay, I can do that with some filters, or I can just, you know, insert a screen layer here and just use this cool brush here and it will look cool. But I would recommend just use simple brushes and simple and keep it really simple. And actually, when we paint and we do digital backgrounds for animated movies, we use only simple brushes. Actually, we use the brush I'm using here, like this really simple round brush for almost everything, or like a brush like this, which is really simple brush. And those are the two brushes that we use for almost everything. And the rest is actually going deeper into like understanding the shadows and understanding how light works and understanding how you paint and the perspective and how reflections work and things like that. So I would recommend using digital only as a tool and keep it simple and not use everything that the software offers, because most of the tools actually in software like Photoshop is for editing photos. So most of the filters are not so good for digital painting actually. But yeah, you can use Photoshop, you can use Procreate on iPad, you can use some free software on Mac and or Windows. Keep it simple. Don't use excessive digitalness if you don't have to, and also just have fun. Look at art that you think is good, digital art that you think is kind of valuable, and you think it would be nice to do something like this, and try to kind of analyze how this person did it. Because as with watercolors or oils or whatever, and digital painting is kind of the same. So also you have kind of to know how to do stuff, and the fastest way to kind of get the skills that you want is analyze other people's work, I think. But yeah, keeping it simple is really important, I think, for digital art. And also with digital art, it's kind of tempting to use like photos and as a reference. So you just import a photo to Photoshop and then you kind of use it as a reference and you sketch over it or something like that. I would recommend not doing it, because it also kind of kills the creativity. Okay. Next question was, okay, I see that you discovered Kana's Instagram, and I'm happy because I really like Kana's works also. So yeah, I recommend going to Kana's Instagram and following it or seeing the comic there. かなちゃん、チャットにリンクを貼れないか。そっか。I will paste a link to her Instagram. じゃカナペコだったっけ？カナペコジャパンかな、インスタグラム。Yes. Okay, so here's the link. Yeah, because digital painting, going a little bit back to your question, digital painting can be overwhelming, but if you, it's the same thing with watercolors. If you just take watercolors and have like 48 colors and all kinds of things you can do with them, and you can mix them in infinite number of ways, it's overwhelming, yes. but you can limit yourself by yourself. So you can tell yourself, okay, I will only use those 4 colors, and you can go with it. And you can actually paint a lot of nice stuff with only 4 colors, with watercolors. So there are ways that you can limit yourself, and it's the same with digital. You can start simple, but just one brush, and I don't know, I will use only 4 colors, and let's see what happens. That's the same thing with watercolors, the same thing with digital. It's that you can limit yourself as much as you want at the start, and it's actually good to have some limits, because the most difficult thing to do is like have limitless possibilities and just, you know, trying to decide what to do with them. So okay, I have the clock here. Okay, next question from Adrian C. I'm sorry. Do you use the computer to finish paintings, or do you use it for the color theory? So I have been doing a lot of digital painting, only 100% digital paintings for the animation, and I can paint 100% digitally. But now I'm using, most of the times I'm using Photoshop only for like post-processing my watercolors. So I take scan them and make them look better in Photoshop, like just adjust the colors, fix some mistakes, remove the paper texture from the borders, from the white borders and stuff like that. But yeah, I paint digitally with Photoshop, like full Photoshop paintings also. You can see some of them on my website, but it's just most of the things I did full digital were done for the anime studio, so I could not upload them to the internet. But yeah, for I think 4 years I was doing like 100% digital painting only, like finished works. So maybe that's because of that recently I have like a kind of aversion for 100 digital painting. So I'm doing stuff by hand and then post-process them digitally. But yeah, I don't think actually it's really so different because digital painting for me is kind of similar to painting with gouache or acrylic gouache, which is kind of similar because you can layer things so once you paint it you can paint over. It's kind of similar to digital painting for me. But yes, I do both, and I think both methods have good and bad sides to them. Okay. Okay, I will put some more darkness here. Like a shadow. Okay, any more questions? Feel free to ask. I think we will go until this is finished, so about, I don't know, 40 minutes more or something like that. Okay. Okay, so let's roughly color the character. Okay, so his jeans kind of like this. No, more like this kind of color. Yeah. I know what you mean because before I started, okay, so Adrian C is writing. I'm a watercolor artist and I've been trying to get into digital, but it's so different. I know what you mean, because I have been painting with watercolors before I started with digital. And when I started digital, I was really lost because it's really different than watercolors. But there are few things that you can do to make things more kind of make you feel at home if you are if you want to try digital. There are software there is some software that can simulate watercolors that is kind of similar to real watercolors. It's not so good, but you can get kind of similar feeling with the software, like Corel Painter or Art Rage. They have like kind of watercolory kind of brushes, and also like Procreate also. And of course you have to use a good drawing tablet, because having like a Wacom tablet is or an Apple Pencil on iPad Pro is really helps a lot with this process of kind of switching to digital. I think most of the people who use like let's say I don't know how it looks now, but when I started with digital, like I used really crappy tablet, and it was really hard to do. So now you have a lot better tablets that you can do, but I would actually recommend buying something that's kind of for painting. So is it like Wacom or something like that? So and maybe approaching it like this, like you have a tablet and you have you can paint directly on the screen. So like Wacom Cintiq or iPad Pro is better probably for people who are really experienced in digital painting. It feels more natural, I think. And also I think what helps is again keeping things simple, because when you start with digital it's kind of compelling to try a lot of stuff, a lot of brushes and fancy stuff that like having opacity on brushes and trying stuff like that. I would actually again recommend going really simple, like using really simple brushes and using really simple techniques to color. And that's the same with sketching. I don't know why it is so, but it's really harder to get into digital when you start with like fancy brushes. When you one of the mistakes I did is like I downloaded a pack of like 100 brushes that I saw some concept artists like doing concept arts for movies used, like you know this kind of fancy brushes that you can do like trees with and all kinds of stuff. And I tried to paint with those and I failed miserably, and I was really at loss what I'm doing wrong. But I was surprised that at the animation studio they did not use almost any special effects brushes or like filters or anything like that, just painted everything. So it's kind of similar to painting with acrylics, I think. Okay, so the next comments here I am using a Surface Pro. It works great, but right now I usually just scan the sketch and test the colors. I mean, and that's one way of doing it. I mean, you can get nice line work working digitally, but also you can just scan stuff. I personally for me, when I had a tablet that was just a tablet, not a screen, achieving nice line work was really difficult. But I bought the Wacom Cintiq, the 13 inches, the small one, and I think that it's really easier to get nice line work on tablet that has a screen. So if you have a Surface Pro, I don't know how good a Surface Pro is because I haven't used one, but I know that our director Makoto Shinkai used Surface Pro to do most of his storyboards for the animation for the previous one. So I think that you can use it for digital art, but I don't know if Surface Pro is such a good tablet for like line work and stuff like that, because I actually tested it a few times and I was not impressed of the feeling of the pen. So yeah, I would actually recommend just going to like a store and just checking out the iPad Pro or the Wacom Cintiq stuff, because it's kind of this is kind of different. I think maybe it will suit your style better. For example, Kana does stuff with the just standard Wacom tablet, not a screen one, and she actually likes it really much. かなちゃん画面のタブレットって欲しい？ And she says that she doesn't want a tablet with a screen because she would like lean like this, and she likes to work like really straight, so this is one of the reasons. But for me, it's like I think that recently digital art has become a little bit more mature, and people don't pay so much attention to the fact that actually this looks digital. They kind of embrace the digitalness and use it as just another process of expression. So achieving similar results like in like you would with traditional paints like watercolors or something like that is not necessarily the target of digital work. And I think that we will be seeing more like artists working digitally and just kind of embracing the digitalness of their work. And this is kind of exciting because I have been waiting for it for some time, for the software and the tablets to be so good that you can actually just leave it digitally, leave it looking digital, kind of. Okay, next question for me from Kaneki Shiba. Are you painting a lot on the iPad Pro? Is the fact that the screen is touch not disturbing you while drawing? It's not disturbing at all. Not disturbing at all. I have been sketching on the iPad Pro a lot recently. I am testing the colors for the shops, for some of the difficult ones. I have been sketching a lot on the iPad Pro in Procreate and some other applications, and I really like it. I really like it, how it feels. You don't have the cursor as you have in the Wacom tablets, and it's kind of hard to switch in the first like few days or hours of work. But then when you kind of learn to trust the Apple Pencil, that the line will be exactly like in the under the tip of your Apple Pencil when you touch the screen, it's really easy to paint. And whenever you just get the Apple Pencil close to the screen, the touch does not kind of interfere, so you can just put your hand on the screen and you can paint it, and it works perfectly. I didn't have any problems with the palm rejection, it's called, in Procreate or anything like this. Is flawless. I am really impressed with this. And it's really fast. I can paint huge canvases on iPad Pro with no problems. And it doesn't lag, it doesn't crash. You can save it as Photoshop files to open it in Photoshop later. You can actually use the Adobe Photoshop Sketch, which has Photoshop brushes, which is awesome. And it also works really good with the Apple Pencil. I'm really impressed how well it works with the Apple Pencil, and I don't have any problems with it actually. I'm really surprised how well it works. The only thing that kind of pisses me off with this, but this is only my kind of thing, is that because you have no cursor, you don't know what tool you have actually on your hand right now. There is an icon that is highlighted that tells you what you have selected, but because you have no cursor, you don't know what tool you have. So I use a Bluetooth keyboard for the Procreate, to just switch like B for brush and E for eraser, like you would in Photoshop. But because you don't know what you have, you sometimes end up pushing the B or E when you already have the eraser, for example. And this causes the Procreate to show you the eraser menu. So you can choose the eraser kind of shape, the brush shape, which is not needed at the moment. So you just end up kind of having this window pop up at you every like 10 seconds or something, which is really frustrating. So recently I ditched the keyboard and I'm just using the iPad Pro without the keyboard. Just tap the icon. The other thing is that you can use your finger as an eraser in Procreate. So you paint with the Apple Pencil and you use your finger as an eraser, which is awesome, and it works really well actually. Which is also surprising for me, but yes, it works, and it works well. So you can just paint with your Apple Pencil and erase with your finger. Of course, you don't have the pressure sensitivity then, but it works really well. I'm sorry. So this is also really nice. Okay, so now the floor. Let's do the floor. Let's do the new layer. My Photoshop is kind of twitchy today. I don't know. It's probably because of the streaming software I'm using. And the floor is kind of wooden, and it's kind of nicely polished floor. I want to do it, so I will add some like mirroring effect in it. So the stuff that is here above will kind of mirror in the floor like this. Okay, I forgot his socks. What color his socks should be? I don't know. Red. Let's make them red. I have a lot of red socks, so let's make them like kind of red. They're kind of in shadow, so let's them like this. Okay. Ah shit! Not this layer. I'm sorry. This will be really fun to paint with watercolors later. I actually am using, I have it actually here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. And I'm using one of the papers I got from Canson as a sample. So I'm actually testing it for the some of the paper samples I got a lot of paper samples from Canson, which is great. So for this one I'm testing like heavy drawing paper from Canson, which is like 220 grams per square meter, I think, and kind of cold pressed ish. Okay, and this is kind of white, and there is like this thing here and a thing here, but also it's kind of wooden, so on top of that it's like a little bit of kind of wood color like this. Okay, and now okay, so next question from Wyatt Wood, Mr. What are you putting on layers? For this picture I'm just doing a sketch, so I'm putting things on layers when I think that maybe I will put something between them. So for example, here I have a layer that has all the colors of the room in the back, and the next layer has like the next layers have the colors of the room in the front, and that's because probably I will put another layer between them and do some effects like steam rising from the bath or something like that, or light hitting the steam or something like that. So that's why I'm using different layers most of the time. Like I have the character and I want to put it on separate layer to have it on separate layer, so I can put some effects on the character and maybe change the colors, make them more intensive or something like that. So most of the times I'm using different layers when I know that maybe I will move it or do something with it or underneath it or between the layers. But when I was painting backgrounds for animated movies, we did a lot of layers for everything. Actually, the standard is to make a layer for each thing. Like this clock here would have a different layer that would be like the base layer of the shape of the clock, and then it would have one layer for the highlight side and one layer for the shadow side, and another layer for the face, and another layer for the shadow in the face, and another layer for the details here, and like probably 10 layers only for the clock. And that's because with animation and animated movies like I did, another person is fixing your stuff, so you have to make it as easy for them to fix your stuff as possible. So you make a lot of layers, and the files are huge, but it's necessary. So the animate director, like the background director, the person that manages all the backgrounds, so he can fix your stuff as quickly as he can. So there are a lot of layers in a file like this, but for me I like to do layers when I think that maybe I will move it later, or maybe I will put some effects between those things here, or maybe I'll put an effect on this thing here. And sometimes I do a layer just because this is a difficult shape, so when I color it once and I put it on different layer, I can then lock the layer and have it locked, so when I fix it later I don't have to pay attention to the layer boundaries. I just can lock it and have it locked, so I can fix it later. This is few reasons why I have stuff on separate layers. And it's kind of easier to manage also. For a sketch like this, I could do it with one layer probably, but it's kind of nice to have it on different layers. For example, here I can choose, I can select only his colors, lock the layer, take a nice like airbrush brush and set it to like multiply, for example, and make his legs a little bit darker and his back a little bit darker, and also a little bit here, for example. And it would not be possible if I only had one layer. And now I have this element here, and can lock it also, and also add some shadows like here. So this makes work a lot easier. It's not necessary, but it's nice. But also having too much layers makes Photoshop kind of sluggish sometimes, so I avoid making too much layers when I'm doing work only for myself. Especially now I'm actually streaming this live, so having a lot of memory and a lot of processor power is kind of essential. By the way, this computer has 28 gigs of RAM, and sometimes even this is kind of I don't know. That's one of the reasons I have been so in love with the iPad Pro recently, because it's kind of nice and sleek and small, and it's fast. Okay, so I have most of the kind of look that I want, and now I'll go for the special effects. So some steam and some light maybe. Let's see how it goes. So first let's do some effects on the back here. Just a regular brush, I think. And I have light here. Let's put like a screen layer on this. I have light from the window here, like this. And let's add some steam here. Is this white? Yes, I think it's white. And maybe a brush like this. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask and I'll answer while I'm painting. Like this. Okay, so there's no white underneath, that's why it's kind of weird. Just fill it with white. Okay, and maybe an overlay layer to make it more like saturated a little bit. Like this. Kind of. Okay, that I think it looks okay-ish. And I want to put more difference between the front and the back. So I will take this layer and this layer and maybe this layer and group them together, and maybe this layer too. So that gives me most of the insides of the picture, and then put a layer on top of this group here and make it a mask, quick mask, and then put it into overlay probably, and make this kind of darker little bit more saturated like this. And the floor would be nice here also. Okay. So, like this. Okay. And maybe a little bit more darker floor here in the bottom. ストリーム大丈夫？ OK。Okay, so like this, and I will probably limit the color a little bit on the top. So let's what we should do, multiply maybe. That would be only okay. So I will put hue saturation filter on this, and then make it darker and little bit less saturated, like this, and then fill this with black, so I can control where it hits, and only apply it to the top like this, and little bit here and little bit here. Okay, with this I can kind of get the back stand out a lot more than the front, so this is only a background, and actually the point is in the back, so I want to do this a little bit less intensive. And next let's add some light from the window that's on top. So let's make this a screen layer. And I try to pick colors that are already in the picture, so I don't overcomplicate it too much. And this light goes in here, and it also makes this thing here a little bit less visible. Okay, this is not a window. Yeah, this is like a wall. I forgot to paint this. Let's paint it quickly, like this. Okay. And bluish kind of. Okay. Add some glow to it, and of course it doesn't hit here, so I have to erase it like this. And also I can put a mask on the lines, so I can erase the lines here a little bit, so it makes it more kind of like light is hitting here. And I like to put another layer on top of the screen layer, so I have like overlay layer on this, so it kind of saturates the colors that are hit in the light. Maybe not this kind of more bluish kind of greenish thing, I think. Yeah, kind of like this. Okay, so that's kind of what I was looking for. Maybe a little bit brighter here. Kind of like this. Okay. And there will be like here, there will be like posters on the white spaces here, so let's just paint something here so it's not so sad. Let's take like a red color and paint like here there's like a logo and a telephone number, and there's also something here, I don't know, like a washing machine or something. I have some photos that have like old posters, so I'll paint something here with watercolors. And also I want to do the floor a little bit more bright here, so I will put a layer, like a screen layer here, take a wooden like color and make it a little bit brighter here where the mirror is, and erase what's not necessary, like this. Kind of thing. And of course, like, you can add some texture, but this is just a sketch to check the colors. I already overdid it probably. And some final touches, just a regular layer to add some stuff, like this shelf here, to add some shadow to it. Maybe here should be darker to make it more 3D dimensional, probably like this. And of course it mirrors here in the floor, like this. Maybe no, I make it brighter. That's why I make it on new layer. Let's check if it's brighter than the rest. Okay, how it would look like. No, probably like this is better. Okay, so the picture is nearly done already. I want to just add some light on the character, like a screen layer here, and make this a little bit brighter because it's kind of really red. Like this, maybe. Kind of. And we have the mirror here, and the mirror is of course mirroring what's in the room, but it also has to have like a glass kind of texture to it, so kind of like this, adding some texture like this is nice. And of course the mirror has to mirror its own frame also, so here has to be like the mirror of the frame, like this. I think. Okay, so I think this is kind of done. Let's save it. I will be coloring this picture with watercolors, and I will be probably recording the process. I don't know how long will it take, but I will record this process and I will put it on YouTube or on Patreon, I don't know yet. So this picture will be available on Patreon for all Patreon supporters, so for all of you. And I think this is kind of complete. Yeah, like highlights here would be nice. I would like to do a live painting like this with watercolors, but I have problems with how to film it actually, because the camera I'm using, the Panasonic Lumix, it has HDMI output, but I have to have an HDMI capture card to connect it to my Mac to stream it through the internet, because when I try to do live streaming with my iPad or my iPhone, the battery holds kind of not so long. So after an hour or 2 hours, I think it's like really kind of dead. So yeah, I will have to try to figure something out to do a live streaming like this also with watercolors, but for now I can show you the digital part of my kind of thinking process like this. Okay, so I hope you liked this live streaming, and from what I can see it's kind of smooth when it's 120p, so maybe we will do it again. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you have any other questions that I did not answer here, just post them or on Patreon and I will add them to the next Q&A session. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. Because of your support I can buy my supplies and I can continue my work on my book, and also continue to do more interesting watercolors and not only, and keep my YouTube channel kind of commercial free, with no commercials, and also website with no commercials. Thank you very much for coming here today and watching. See you in the next Q&A session, and I'll be also posting on Patreon when I have some interesting news. Thank you very much. Bye. Yeah.